Good morning, Eden. We're back to the Gemara on Kuf Tes Amud Beis 109a. Right, so we're keeping up with going through each section of the Gemara and then reading the relevant sections of the Shulchan Aruch that are derived from that Gemara. And Aleph, Kuf Tes Amud Aleph 109a. And the last discussion we had was on the obligation that one has to bring joy to their wife and children on Pesach, on Yom Tov in general. Right, so we looked at the halachas regarding that, and the joy for the man is some wine and meat at temple times, and buying your wife a gift for Yom Tov, buying your children treats, and so on. So now we go back to the Gemara, and the Gemara discusses the size of a revius, the measure of a revius, how big is a revius. So for this one, I'm sorry, we're not going to go to the halacha afterwards for this. The truth is actually we read the Shulchan Aruch, which says already what the size is. We went through that, and I mentioned then that part of the Shulchan Aruch is coming from this part of the Gemara, which we're not going to get into in depth because the discussion how to convert the revius to modern
the rabbit hole
to modern modern measurements is a rabbit hole that I'm not willing to go down. And so we're just going to leave it at that. We're going to learn the Gemara as is, and then go forward.
Yeah. Okay. But you are.
No, I know no one's holding it against me. I'm just giving. I know no one's holding it. Yeah. I know no one's holding it against me. I'm just putting it out there. Yeah.
I actually was blown away. I do remember that you said that the Revius is actually quite small. So this cup, they had some coffee cups that the logo of a coffee on it. It's like a yellow cup, and actually on the cup it says 10 ounce, and it's smaller than this. Yeah, it's like more narrow, much more narrow. It seems
smaller. I don't know, but
you mentioned it's about 3.5.
Right, that was the footnote. There was that 3.5, three something ounces. It's not a lot.
So I'm saying, I think the becker that I used on Pesach is much bigger. Probably that size.
Probably.
Probably bigger.
You're holding, and if you're doing Chabad Kas, you're drinking the whole cup. You're drinking the whole cup for the 4 cups of wine. You're drinking a lot of wine.
Probably had 40, 50 ounces.
It's fun. Okay, let's get into it.
It's a big difference.
So it's the middle of the page. There's a little 3 at the beginning of the line, and we're looking at the middle, which is Omer Rabbi Yitzchak. You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kuf Tes Amud Aleph, middle of the line.
Yeah.
Omer Rabbi Yitzchak. See it?
I don't see it right either.
You're looking at Kuf Tes Aleph?
Yeah.
Okay, so middle of the page is a little 3 at the beginning of the line.
3, I thought you said a gimel.
Little 3. Or actually maybe a gimel, but 3 or a gimel. But I think it's a 3. The yayin yisamach levav enosh, and then the fifth word is Omar. See it?
Yayin yisamach levav enosh.
And then right after that, Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. You see it?
Right.
Farther down, yeah. Lower than half. Sorry, not lower than halfway.
But it's not the. Oh,
I found it.
Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. You see it?
The gimel.
Little gimel. Sorry. For me, it's a 3. Okay, Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, you have it there?
You said yayin yisamach levav.
And then keep on going. Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. Okay. Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Kista Dumurisa was a measure that they would sell brine in, to have a bit sipori, that they used in sipori. Place.
Sipori, right?
Sipori. It's a place in Israel.
It's either a mountain or a valley, right? They used to measure the sun.
In Sipori? It's in Israel, right? It's in the north, I think. So Kista Dimurisa Sipori, the measure that they would sell brine in, like this jug, that was in Sipori. He havis kimin luga de mikdasha. It was the same size as a lug used in the temple. The lug is the absolute measure, and all the other measures are from a lug. Revius, which means a quarter, is a quarter of a lug.
Right.
So it says Rabbi Yitzchak, use that measure, and that's the jug they would use to measure a revius for Pesach, because they knew that this jug that they sold the brine in
4 times
was 4 times a revius. So you fill that up with wine, divide it in 4, and there's your 4 revius. Straightforward.
It would be like the equivalent.
So that'd be your 4 cups for Pesach.
That's it.
Yeah, lug.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Because a revius is a quarter lug. Yeah.
So maybe not in volume wise, but like concept-wise, it's just the same as a liter. Now the liter is the base, and then everything
Exactly.
else is the milliliter.
All
every
exactly.
liter.
All good except for the U.S. system.
Ah,
But all
forgot
good
about it.
systems have one base measure, and then you go either times it or divide it, right? So
Yeah.
in temple volume measures, it's lug.
Right.
So you either times it or you divide it.
Right.
Right. So the revius means a quarter of a lug. Sorry? The base unit, yeah.
The base unit.
The base, exactly. So
But that's interesting though, sorry.
yeah.
But the temple had, sometimes they had
A hin.
2 different measures for the same thing. Like, they had for some of their volumetric cups, they had 2 types, one that overflowed and one that
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
some of the volumetric containers, they had 2 different standards. I think I read for the same name.
You mean like because depending how they measure the tefach?
Yeah,
Four-finger
like
tefach.
that, but for volume, not.
That's
not-
right. That's distance, not volume.
I said when they used some of their cups were
I don't remember.
What about a
something
hin?
in the Mishnah.
Sorry?
What's a hin? H-I-N.
Visahin.
When
I
you-
think that's a lug. Isn't a hin a lug? I think a hin and a lug is the same.
Oh, really?
a lug, a
I
hin?
think a hin and a lug is the same, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't know.
Look it up.
Hin, eighth of a hin.
Third for a bull, it's a
So
third.
that's also a base
For
measure.
a third, it's a ram, and
Yeah,
a
let's
quarter
see.
is for a lamb. That's what it says in the city.
Ah.
Sorry, no, that's not here.
For the wine, yeah. for
I'm
the
pretty
wine-
sure.
Wine libation. That's neat. Measurements in temple times.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Hin is 3 lug.
Oh, wow.
It's much bigger. I apologize. Hin
So a
is a
third of
bigger.
a hen is a lug.
Yeah.
It's
So
12. No,
that's-
sorry, no. It's 12 lug and 3 kavim. 3 kav.
12.
Hig is
lug.
bigger.
Wow.
Hin is much bigger. Sorry.
Hmm.
Let's see biblical measure units. Let's see the list here.
So a
Measured.
third is
Let's see. Measure
four
of.
bucks a wine. Or
Wait.
bull offering.
What's it called? Shekel. That's weight.
Four. So that's 16 cups of.
Something like that. 1
16
second.
revius.
Let me just Mishkan. Let's see this. This page is.
Revium. Or revius.
Yeah. Twahin is 12 lug. Much bigger. Okay. Anyway, so Rabbi Yitzchak said, you get a hold of this jug they used to sell the brine in, and then divide that in 4, and that's your revius. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Tamnisa kadmisa dahav b'tiferia. The old 8th measure that they had in Tveria. Okay, so they had a measure in Tveria that was called the 8th measure, for whatever reason. So the old one, Hava Yeseda al da revia, was bigger than the new one by exactly a revius. So there was an old measure called Tamnisa, the 8th measure, and there's a new measure of the 8th measure. And over time, somehow the 8th measure, this same jug known as the 8th measure, got bigger. And today in Rabbi Yochanan's time, it's exactly a revius bigger than the way it was in the old day. So you get a hold of the old measure, get a hold of the new one, you fill up the new one, pour it into the old one, whatever's left in your new one. That's a revius.
Right.
The way around, sorry. You fill up the old one, that was the bigger one. Fill up the old one, pour it into the new one, and whatever's left in your old one, that's the revius. That's it.
But
But-
that assumes they know what a revius is. Right?
Well, everybody knows that a revius is a
Saying
quarter
that-
of a log, right? How much is it? So they're using colloquial frames of references that they knew. You know that jug, divide it in 4. You know that jug, the 2 ones, the old one, and the new one. Take the old one, fill it up, pour it into the new one, and whatever's left is a revius. So they're obviously not useful for us, but in the times of the Gemara, these would have been useful. Right? For us, it's not useful because we don't know what either. And then none of these things are. We barely know what brine is. No kidding. Ubam Pesach, and this is what you use to measure for Pesach. Okay, so now the Gemara gets to universal measures so that we can actually think about it. Amar Rav Chisda said, Revius shel Torah, the Revius, the quarter log of Torah, the biblical one, is measured like this. Etzba'ayim al etzba'ayim. It's 2 fingers by 2 fingers, width and depth, width and length. So it's 2 fingers squared.
Kind of like a tzitzit corner.
Sorry?
Like a tzitzit
Two
corner.
2 finger square. The room and the height would be etzba'ayim, 2 fingers, the chatzi etzba v'chaymish espa, and a half a finger and a fifth of a finger. Mathematically, what would that be? What's a half plus a fifth?
It's a good one. It's got to be intense, right?
So it's
and
say it's 2 point. Let's just say it's 2 point. A fifth would be 2.25.
it's 2/10.
2/7.
No, sorry,
Seven
not
tenths.
2.25. It would be sorry,
2/5.
1/5. Sorry, 1/2, and then a fifth.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be 2/7 if you add the tops and you add
Yeah.
the bottoms?
Sorry, I don't know these kind of things.
Saying
Not
like,
math,
you,
I think.
you add the 2 on top, 1 and 1, and
It's,
then 2 and 5.
yeah.
It'd be 2/7.
Sorry,
Saying you have 1/5 and 1/2.
right?
So you add the 2 top numbers, 1 plus 1 is
2,
2,
and 2 over
the bottom
7.
numbers 2 plus 5 is 7.
5/10 plus
So 2/7.
What's it?
So what's
2
2/7?
It's a half and a fifth.
7/10. I think. 5 times plus 2.
7/10. Yeah.
Seven-
So that's the height.
70,
It's not very big. 2 finger by 2 fingers plus 2.5 fingers.
Yeah.
And a little bit more than a half fingers. It's not very big, not a lot. Right? So, but this is kind of the way that you'll.
Yeah.
Sorry?
7/10. That's what you said?
Yeah.
So the mathematic,
That's the only
Right.
common denominator between the two.
the mathematic problem you run into here is, and this is the big discussion that gets into all these halachas, is first of all, what are exactly the size of the fingers here? But also is when you convert height, distance into volume, because he's describing height. So if you get a cup that's exactly that high, and then what's the volume conversion of that? So if the cup is wider, broader, deeper, narrower, skinnier, right? So you have to convert the volume that fits in that space. You have to convert the space and then the volume that's in it. Follow? Because that's sort of
I don't understand.
when he says 2 fingers by 2 fingers and the height of 2 fingers, 2 and
That's the
7 fingers.
volume. That's the difference.
not a
in
volume.
Sure, it is.
It's
What length by width times height is volume.
Right. But it's distance. With
Oh, it's,
Width,
you have an
height,
area
and depth.
with a height.
that's
That's a
distance.
volume.
Then you have to convert what's the volume inside of it, just to convert that height into how many ounces. Right. So if you were to have
right,
a
'cause you're
wider
gonna have
a wider
cubic,
cup.
Well, cubic, whatever the
Cubic
unit
distance is-
cubic is the volume.
Correct. Which you have to, so you therefore have to convert it so that you can understand the volume.
Well, yeah, you have
So that way you can figure out if your cup's wider or narrower, how much to have.
Right.
Right? That becomes the challenge. So here's the other Gemara gets to some more challenging math. To be honest, I don't fully understand it, but I'll just tell you what I do understand. Okay. So this is Rav Chisda's statement that the volume of a revius is the volume that is contained in 2 finger by 2 fingers by 7/10 by 2. Sorry, 2 finger by 2 fingers by 2 fingers and 7/10. Yeah,
2 and 7/10.
that's the volume of revius. Not a lot again. How did he come to this conclusion? Okay, Tanya, sorry. What do you say?
No, just every unit is relative.
What do you mean?
Saying what's 2 and a 2 and a 7th of what?
A finger,
Of a finger.
Okay.
7/10 of a
See,
finger.
if you want to give measures that are going to
Little
last,
more than
that are going
half.
to transcend
Can be
time,
named after
you have to be named after something we all know.
right.
So till they were using the measure of the brine, well, we don't live in Sipodi anymore,
Right.
so we don't have this
They
brine
use
measure.
their finger. They said it's like this.
Right, so you have to
like
use something that's going to last beyond these books,
Right.
and beyond the language.
Yeah.
So that's these fingers,
You mentioned.
right? The same thing with other volume measures that are
Yeah. Today's
by egg or by
Desire
by
by a
olive,
right.
because they're going to be universal measures that will transcend time.
or
Yeah.
a Jerusalem date.
Even though that became challenging also again, because what is the size of an olive? And if you're living in Europe, you never saw an olive in your life. How do you measure olives? Yeah. Right? So that becomes a big challenge. Okay, let's go. So how did he get to this measure of the fingers? Yeah. So it's Tanya, because he learned in a Mishnah text, which reads like this. The pasuk says, with respect to someone who's going through the process of purification, he has to rinse in water his entire body. That's what the Gemara describes. That's what the pasuk describes mikvah. Oh. Put your whole body into the mikvah, right? So, number one, first of all, you have to make sure that there's no separation between your body and the water. It says put your whole body in water.
Right.
Yeah, that's number one. And number two is b'mayim. You have to put it into the water, and all your flesh into the water, put your entire body into the water, which means the may mikvah, the waters of a mikvah, as called psaroi, his entire body. So therefore, it tells you that mayim should call gufay oilabah. You have to go into a body of water in which your entire body can fit. So by the pasuk saying put your whole body in the mikvah, the pasuk is also giving you this minimum size for a mikvah, which is the minimum size that would fit an average human body. Meaning, if you have a smaller container, and then you put one arm in, another arm in, then put your head in, then put your torso in, or then your legs in, you haven't fulfilled your obligation for mikvah. Right? Because mikvah has to be the size that you can put your whole body in. As the pasuk says, put your whole body in water. It has to be the size of your whole body. So now we got some sort of measure for what the mikvah is. Okay. Now, kama pain, how much is that? How big is the body of water in which you can contain the size of the average person? So what is that? Top of Kuftesim base, top of 109b. Okay. Amma al amma, one amma by one amma. Birum sholosh amas. The height of 3 amas. So 1 by 1 by 3.
So it has an area of 1 square and height of 3.
That's right. 1 by 1 by 3, and then you can crouch in it. Right. Or maybe even stand in it.
It's 3 cubic whatever.
That's right. So now, sorry?
No, I'm saying, whatever the unit is.
Right. So 3 amas by 3 amas. Height, sorry.
Oh, it's an amma.
Sorry.
Right.
1 by 1 by 3.
So 3 cubic amma.
3 cubic amas, 1 by 1 by 3. Yes?
Okay. 3 cubic what?
1 by 1 by 3.
Yeah.
So
the unit is
of amma.
Okay.
Of amma. And we're using distance again, right? How much water do you fit in a distance? So amma is the arm, right? It's, that's what amma is. It's the full arm.
Sorry, I missed the transition.
Sorry?
I missed the transition from Kiddush cup to the mikvah.
Okay, so we're gonna the mikvah is gonna help us understand how we got to the Kiddush cup being a revius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How we got to the revius being 2 fingers by 2 fingers by 2 and 7 fingers. Okay. Right? We're doing that by understanding how big the mikvah is. How do we get to the mikvah? Pasuk says mikvah is full body. Right. What's full body? 1 amma by 1 amma by 3 amma. That's the average. I've got 1 amma. My width and length of my body is 1 amma by 1 amma, and my height is 3 ammas. Right. Average. Okay. Yeah. So you can slide me into the mikvah like a peg.
3 ammas high.
Sorry.
And you're about 3 ammas.
About 3 ammas tall.
Maybe crouching.
No, not even crouching. Not even crouching. 3 ammas are not even crouching.
2 feet times 3 is 6 feet.
Something like that.
So it's a little bit less.
Yeah, it's not crouching, just standing regular. Or if you put it horizontally, I can lie down in that. Yeah. Okay. So now, how much?
You can lie down in it because the area is not.
If we put it horizontally.
Oh, if you put.
Right. Then I can lie down in it, or I can go like a peg.
It's a body of water, so I would think like if you did water,
whatever. Yeah. You shape the pool otherwise. Okay, so now what's the volume that fits into 3 ammas, 1 amma by 1 amma by 3 amma? So it says, continues the text. Our sages did the calculation, and they concluded shir mei mikvah, the amount that fits into this 1 amma by 1 amma by 3 amma, is 40 sa, is 40 sa. Okay, so now the Gemara does not explain itself. There's a very lengthy Rashi that does explain it that I don't fully understand. But I'm just going to tell you what the logic is. And this is what I do understand. The logic is you have to. So we have now a measure of volume, right, as it relates to a measure of distance and height. Now we know the relative amount, right, of how many fingers there are to the amos, right?
You do?
Yes, because each amma is 18 fingers. Not
Okay.
mistaken.
That's a given.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. Each amma has how many tefach?
Oh,
3?
4?
It's
No?
4, right?
I don't know. I'm guessing. Is it 4?
Right. And then you have how many? Let's see. There's a
Oh, and
map
how
here.
many fingers in a tefach?
Exactly. And how many fingers in a tefach?
Yeah.
And then once you figure out how many fingers there are in a tefach,
It's 4 or 5,
to
right?
how many fingers there are to a tefach, how many tefach there are to an amma,
About 4
and now you know how much water there is in 1 amma by 1 amma by 3 amma. If you reduce it down, you can get to figuring out
7/10.
the height of the revius. That's the math, which again I don't understand it fully because I'm terrible at it. But here's the visualization that you get from
Oh,
Art School.
Oh,
It's sort of
wow.
helping there. So Art School takes the here. So if you visualize, this is your 3. So it's 6 tvachim.
6.
6 tvachim by 6 tvachim.
Okay, they're saying an
By
amma is
2
made up of 6 tefachim,
Right. No, an amma,
right?
1 amma by 1 amma.
It's right, 6 tefachim per amma.
Each cube is one L. What's the L? The L is log.
look, yeah.
Right. So they figured out how much the log is and you divide it by
Oh, it's
4.
1/6.
Sorry, right? So you figure out how many log fit in that space based on the calculation given here, 40 saw to we know the relative ratio of log of revius to log, obviously it's a quarter, and we know the relative ratio of log to saw. And then once you figure out how much fits into the space of 1 amma by 1 amma relative to your log and saw, then you can divide that into 4 and you have your revius. So that's what the Rashi does this whole calculation for us. Which again, I don't follow. I'm not very good at this thing.
You have to.
But this is the gist of it. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So if
Is
you
that
want
where
to,
a cubit comes from?
the word cubit,
How
Yeah.
fucking a cubit is?
amma is a cubit.
Right.
Right.
Why call it cubit? I don't know. It's just
I
a
thought it was a
word.
hand breadth. What's
That's
it?
a
That's
tefach.
tefach.
Oh, okay, right.
Right.
Cubit and amma are the same.
So
And there's also arm breadth. Arm breadth is I don't know.
I think.
So it's like this. 3 cubit ammas will hold 40 saw of water. It follows then that a cubit of 2 by 2 by 2.7 finger handbreadths will contain a revius of liquid. That's the rationale.
Because that's derived from that.
Yeah, this can be calculated as follows: an amma is 6 tefachim.
Yeah, 6
A tefach is 14 handbreadths. 14 finger
finger breath.
Again. An amma is 6 tefachim.
Yeah.
A tefach is 4 finger breadths. Thus, an amma is 24 finger breadths.
24. Yeah.
6
times
tvachim.
4.
6 times 4. Okay. Now a saw, ready, is 6 kabin. A kav is 4 log. So, and a log is 4 revius. Okay. So if one saw has 6 kav and a kav is 4 login and a log is 4 revius, thus a saw is 96 revius. Yeah. Okay. Now 40 saw are 3,840 revius. Okay. Accordingly, 1 by 1 by 1, 3 ammas equals 40 saw can be rewritten as 24 times 24 times 72 finger breadths equals 384 revius. I didn't get the whole math, but you're following what he's doing.
But
Yeah.
okay, so according to this, we would know then in Sipri which size is according to this. It was either the 8th or the smaller lug. No, which lug is equal?
The one that has 4 revius. Well,
Yeah, the
one that's a quarter of a kav,
yeah.
which itself is a sixth of a saw. Right. So 24 by 24 by 72 is 41,472. Thus,
same finger breadths?
yes. Thus, using F for finger breadths and R for revius, 41472
You're doing
finger
algebra.
breadths.
You're figuring out the revius based on algebra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a different calculation.
Yeah,
There's
you
two
gotta-
different ways to
you
get to
just
it,
gotta do the algebra.
but you get the idea.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, concluding remarks on the Gemara's discussion of mikvah. And then tomorrow we'll get to back to the Seder night and the 4 cups of wine. Amar Rav Ashi said, Amali Rabin Bar Chanina told me, says Rav Ashi, Shulchan Shel Mikdash, the table that was in the Mikdash, right? You know the table
Yeah, for the bread,
for the showbread.
for the showbread.
Yeah. Says Rav Ashi that Rabin told me, Shel Prakim Hava, was made up of parts.
Yeah,
It was like
sure.
pieces together that you connect rather than one solid block. Why? Not just the parts that hold up the bread, but the table itself, just the table part. Right? You know what the table looked like?
It's like
There's
two
a,
columns with.
one second. But there was just a little.
Six rows.
There's a plain old table, and then on top of that table, they have these 2 columns, right?
Yeah.
So take the columns away, just the table itself.
Yeah.
Okay, just the table. So that itself is made up of parts.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Why?
okay.
Because if you're going to suggest they're stuck together, they're one, right? Amsa ba'amsa, heichi matbale. How could they?
Right.
How could they
fit
put in the mikvah if it's 1 amma by 1 amma,
Right. That's it.
right? And it would fit if the mikvah is only 1 amma by 1 amma and 3 ammas height. I think the table was 1 amma by 1 amma and 2.5 height. I think. So the height is not a problem, but the width is you can't fit an amma and amma into an amma by amma.
This is way to purify it.
To purify it became impure. That's right.
Or
And we have to remember that it's not like kaling today where you're not going to take a table to the mikvah now if you buy it. But back then
They would. Yes, correct.
There was
Yeah.
different kinds of impurities.
So
for sure.
what's the Gemara's answer? It was an obvious answer.
Wait, what was the question?
So in other words, the Gemara rejects this proposition. The proposition here is
that
that
it
it must have been
wasn't in
made up of parts, and not. It has to be. It's capable of being assembled and disassembled.
Right.
Is the claim here? Because otherwise, how does it fit into the mikvah?
Okay.
What's the obvious rebuttal?
It was never impure.
No, it could become
Okay.
impure,
Right. That's what we said.
especially since they would take the showbread out actually, and
And
whenever.
they built the mikvah for the table.
Right, exactly. The mikvah is not describing here a maximum size of the mikvah. It's talking about a minimum size of the
Minimum.
mikvah. Get a bigger one.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah.
The obvious rebuttal. The Gemara asks, my question, like, what's your question here? What's the problem? Why are we pressed to say that it's made up of parts? Dilma, maybe biyam shloima have a matbale. They dunked it in the mikvah known as the Sea of King Solomon.
All right. Yeah.
It wasn't an actual sea, it was just a very, very big pool.
Right.
So they called it the Sea of Solomon. The Tani Rav Chia, because we learned the name of Rav Chia, Yam She'asa Shloima, the sea that King Solomon built, Machzik was able to contain in it Me'ah v'chamishon mikvah tara, was the size of 150 kosher mikvahs.
It sounds so familiar.
150.
Mikvahs. So 150 times 40 saw, how big is that? So if each 4 saw is 1 by 1 by 3.5, times that by 150, it's a big mikvah. It's a big pool. The Gemara-
6,000.
Sorry? It's very, very big. The bottom line is big enough to contain this. So the Gemara is just rebutting the proposition that the Kalim and the Beis Mikdash must have been able to disassemble and disassemble because of the size of the mikvah, because he didn't describe a minimum. I'm sorry, we didn't describe a maximum, we just described a minimum.
Minimum.
And therefore you can go as big as you'd like. So that it could have had a much bigger mikvah. Okay, this is the Gemara's end of the discussion regarding the size of a revius, deduced from the size of a mikvah, and comes down to it's very, very little. Yeah, it's very, very, it's not very big. Right? It's, what was it? 2 fingers by 2 fingers and 2 7/10 of a finger. It's not a lot. It's a couple of ounces. It's less than 4 or 5 ounces, for sure. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow we're going to get back to the question of the 4 cups of wine, and a very interesting discussion on negative spiritual energy that's associated with certain things and how we avoid that on the Seder night. And I'll share something with you that I wrote a couple years back based on the Alter Rebbe's comment, which we will learn. Okay, wonderful day.
Okay.
What's tough ratio? What's that word? Trey or tari?
Where?
In the Gemara text.
Where? No, you're skipping ahead to the Gemara's Gemara. Today means 2.
Oh.
But we'll read that tomorrow.
We don't read ahead.
You can read ahead, no problem. But we'll translate it tomorrow for you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
we'll
looking
continue.
for a class that reads ahead.
Okay,
Where
have a
was
good day.
this